The moment the old woman's fingers tightened around his sleeve, Ethan knew his quiet evening was over. He had come to the Grand Hotel Café only for a cup of tea and a few minutes of silence before returning home to his sleeping son. Instead, a trembling voice whispered words that hit him like a sudden storm. "Please, pretend you're my daughter's fiancé. Just for tonight." Ethan was 39, a single father who had learned to survive on routine and restraint. 3 years earlier, life had stripped him of his wife in a cruel accident, leaving him with a 6-year-old boy and a heart that no longer trusted surprises. He planned his days carefully: school runs, work, bedtime stories, no room for drama, no room for lies. And yet, when he looked into the old woman's eyes, he saw something deeper than embarrassment. He saw fear, desperation, the kind that comes from loving someone and losing control over their fate. The woman, Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, 71, was elegant despite her shaking hands. Pearls rested against her collarbone, and her voice carried the weight of years spent in rooms like this, rooms full of wealth, judgment, and unspoken rules. Across the hall, a group of sharply dressed guests laughed loudly. At their center stood a man in a tailored suit, his smile sharp, calculating. "My daughter," Eleanor whispered, "is about to be engaged to a man who sees her as an asset, not a human being. If she doesn't appear already taken, tonight decides everything." Ethan should have refused. He knew that lies had consequences, but something inside him remembered the night he'd stood alone in a hospital hallway, wishing desperately for a stranger to step in and help him carry the unbearable weight. Slowly, he set his teacup down and stood. "Just tell me what to do," he said quietly. Moments later, the room shifted. Eleanor's daughter, Clara, 31, entered wearing a simple but striking dress, her posture straight, her expression guarded. She looked like a woman who had learned to protect herself in rooms that measured worth in money and status. When her eyes fell on Ethan standing beside her mother, something flickered, confusion first, then disbelief. Eleanor introduced him with a calm confidence that surprised even herself. "This is Ethan, Clara's fiancé." The lie hung in the air like fragile glass. The challenge came quickly. The wealthy suitor, Marcus Hale, wasted no time. He approached, questions sharpened like knives. Where did they meet? What did Ethan do? Why hadn't anyone heard of him before? Ethan felt sweat gather at his spine, but he answered honestly where he could, carefully where he couldn't. He spoke of being an architect, not of buildings, but of rebuilding life after loss. He mentioned his son, not as leverage, but as truth. To his own surprise, the room grew quieter. People listened. Clara watched him closely. She expected arrogance, performance, ego. Instead, she saw restraint, respect. When Marcus mocked Ethan's modest lifestyle, Ethan didn't retaliate. He simply said, "I don't measure success by what I own. I measure it by who waits for me at home." That sentence broke something open. Later that evening, Clara confronted her mother in private. Anger spilled out, about manipulation, about lies, about being cornered. Eleanor listened, tears tracing lines down her face. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you'd marry safety and call it love. Afraid you'd wake up at my age and realize you never chose yourself." Clara stormed out, straight into Ethan. Their conversation was raw and awkward. She accused him of playing a role too well. He apologized without excuses. Then, quietly, he told her the truth about his wife, about learning to raise a child alone, about how love had once shattered him and how he still believed it was worth everything. Clara didn't cry. She just breathed, as if she had been holding her breath for years. The final challenge came when Marcus demanded the truth in front of everyone. Eleanor stood frozen. The room waited. Ethan stepped forward and said, "I was asked to pretend. But everything I said about who I am is real. And the choice Clara makes tonight should be real too." Silence followed. Then Clara spoke. She thanked Marcus for reminding her what she didn't want. She took her mother's hand, and for the first time, she smiled freely. Ethan expected to walk away after that. That was always the plan. But as he prepared to leave, Clara stopped him. "Would you like to have tea sometime?" she asked softly, without pretending. Weeks later, Ethan's son sat at the kitchen table, coloring, while Clara helped with homework and Eleanor laughed from the doorway. Nothing was rushed, nothing was promised, but something honest had begun. The night Ethan went for tea taught him a simple truth. Sometimes, kindness asks you to step into a stranger's story. And when you do, you may find that your own story has been waiting for that moment to move forward.